Yeah. What's going on, faithfuls? This is Nothing But Niners crew. We are back to bring you guys. This is going to be one of our segments that we're going to do, breaking down the upcoming free agency period for the 49ers. So this is your boy Mike from Nothing But Niners. You guys can find me on Twitter. My handle is 49ers Mike _NF. And today I'm joined by my man Eric. What's going on, Eric? How you doing, man?
What's up?
Yeah. Let people know where to find you, man. I know you on Twitter. You on everything, man. I'll be hearing you on podcasts. I'm like, yo, Eric writing nice articles and stuff now, man. Let people know where to find you.
I know,
all the different
man.
places that you put in work in.
It's crazy. I'm actually gonna be on the podcast tonight with the Peacock from he does his little daily podcast. Yeah. So I'll be on there tonight talking DBs, free agency football. You guys can find me at on Twitter at Eric. That's ERIC _Crocker, and on Instagram at CrocTime_U. So as anybody knows, I love to talk DBs. As everybody knows, I'm very interactive on all my social media. So check out anything that I put out there, whether it's talking about DBs, where it's writing that I've just gotten into. Like you said, hear me on a couple of different podcasts here and there, but I just try to have fun with it. Just love talking football, man.
That's what's up, man. So you guys make sure you check him out. He's gonna be over there with BD Peacock, and that is on the 49ers. It's a daily thing that they do. I'm subscribed to him too.
Yeah,
I can't remember what the name.
He has a daily podcast.
Yeah, but it's good. It's like Locked On 49ers. Yeah, that's it. Locked On 49ers. You guys make sure you check him out over there. He's a frequent guest over there. My man is writing for 4th and 9, and you guys catch him over here with Nothing But Niners. We're gonna have to put that pin to work over here too, man. I like what I'm seeing from him, man.
I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna put something together.
I like it. So tonight, what we're gonna do is free agency is upon us now. Well, it's pretty close. And one of the biggest needs for the 49ers is obviously cornerback. We had a rough start this year where the guy who was projected to be our number 1 corner ended up getting traded. The guy who was our number 2 corner is a free agent. We're not bringing him back. And the guy who ended up being the best corner on the team was a rookie. But right now, the Niners are looking pretty thin at that position. And so Eric is going to take us through this really quick. We're going to try to make this as quick as possible. But before we get into what free agents we should be discussing, there's a very interesting thing that Eric is keen to that the rest of us may not be, and that is how to assess how good a corner is. Now, we can look up stats and we can go to PFF and we can see, what the ratings are and things like that. And if you're not subscribed to PFF, then you can, you sit around and you wait for other people to post certain stats and all, right? But when you're watching a football game, other than did that guy catch that or didn't he catch it, how do you know if a corner is good? And so that's what Eric is going to delve into. I've seen plays on the field where a wide receiver is wide open, but the quarterback just throws an inaccurate pass. And you'll see the DB trailing. The DB is like 3 yards behind him, and he does like one of these, like, you didn't catch it. Like, bro, that had nothing to do with you. And so you don't get points for that. It's going to count in the stats. It was a throw that was on your side of the field into your guy, but it's going to be an incomplete. So teach us, Eric, man. So let us know in general first, what is it you look for in a DB? How can you tell that he's a good corner?
All right, so typically what I look for, and as you know, I train young athletes, I train defensive backs, and I try to teach them everything that I know. First thing that you look for is attitude. That's the first thing that is he a dog? Is he aggressive? And when I say aggressive, that doesn't mean like just want to grab and throw somebody on the field. It's just, does he have an aggressive mindset to where whatever just happened, you know what? Hey, you beat me before a 50-yard bomb. All right, but guess what? It ain't happening again. I'm coming right back. I'm going to be just as aggressive as I was, all game. You know what I'm saying? So you want to have an aggressive cornerback with a short-term memory, because as we know, cornerback is hands down, as far on the defensive side of the field, it's the hardest position to play. You're on the island. One false step here, one slip up here, and that's 6 points. And then the second thing about cornerback as well is, you can be locking somebody up all game, and then you give up one big play, and it's like, oh, he's terrible. Get him out of here, cut him. And it's like, man, that's the only bad play I've had all game. I've been strapping this guy the entire game. So it's a tough position. mentally is tough. You have to be a strong person. So that's the first thing I look for. You know, is it a confident person? Is he aggressive? Is he tough? Aside from that, now you start looking to see, you know, what, you know, do his skill sets, convert to what you're trying to do. So say right now, you know, I've looked them on various defensive backs coming out in the draft. There's a guy that people are really high on, Josh Jackson, 6'1", you know, 190 something pounds, long arms. He's athletic. You know, everything from a physical standpoint that you want in your cornerback, Josh Jackson is that. Now, for me, and I'm thinking about scheme specifically, when I think about the 49ers play more of a press man, single high safety scheme. So there's not a lot of room for error, you know. So they run a lot of, they can run cover 3 out of that press, where you'll see our defensive backs press bail out. So press bail, that just means they're lined up in press, and as soon as they snap the ball, they kind of open up and try to stay on top of the receiver. So you'll see them do that, or they're just pressed up and they're just in man. And really, we have a single high safety. Hopefully, you know, that single high safety can you know, get sideline to sideline, but a lot of times you don't have that much help.
All right, so let me take it back a little bit, because we want to educate people also. So you're saying press man, right? And now when I was watching football and I hear people say press man, I'm thinking that it means that they have to jam at the line and they didn't stick to their guy. You want to try to get like hip to hip. Does press man mean that they actually have to jam at the line? They're supposed to make contact, or does press man just mean like you're on man and you want to stay as close to him as possible? So explain that to me.
So ideally, you do want someone that does know how to use their hands at the line of scrimmage. The issue is a lot of receivers are really quick and shifty. So bigger receivers, it's a lot easier to get your hands on them. So say like an Alshon Jeffrey, he's probably not going to whoop me off the line of scrimmage. Mike Evans, probably not going to whoop me off the line of scrimmage. But when you're playing, you know, a guy like Odell Beckham, who is a lot quicker, it's a lot harder to get your hands on him at the line of scrimmage, or like a Tyreek Hill, a lot harder. So if you try really hard to get your hands on him at the line of scrimmage, especially if you end up stopping your feet, it's good night. He's gone. 6 points on the board, and you'll see Tyreek Hill doing that little thing he does as he runs to the end zone, throwing the little deuces up. Yeah, so you know you don't want to try too hard to get hands on. The main thing that you want to do from a press position, the main thing you want to do is make sure you keep that close distance to the receiver. If you can get hands on, and if you have a cornerback that is just really good, there's one in the draft that's good at that, and I'll talk about him. He has pretty good technique with it. If you have a cornerback like that, that's just for whatever reason, there's not a lot of them out there, but he's able to stay square at the line of scrimmage, and he's able to use his hands and then, you know, be able to run with a receiver. That's great. But there aren't a lot that are either comfortable with their speed or just, you know, they kind of lack a little bit of technique. So it's definitely a difficult thing on a consistent basis to get hands on a receiver consistently. But if you can do it, that's great. If you can't, it's not the end all be all.
All right, so that's a great breakdown. So it's basically lock your guy down. That's your guy. When people say press man, like stay as close to him as possible. That's what we look for. That's not zone coverage. Zone coverage is you're responsible for. I'm speaking because I don't know the technical terms and all that. So you're responsible for a certain radius on the field.
Right. So say like Josh Jackson, who I think, you know, from what I've seen, I'm just now really digging into film as much as I am on prospects and stuff like that. There's been guys in the past where, you know, I watched a little bit here and there, maybe watch a highlight, and it's like, oh, you know, I like this guy. But, you know, now I'm really digging into the film. So a guy like Josh Jackson, here and there, they would do a lot of what the 49ers do. You'll see him do play single high safety, but to me, he didn't really look comfortable. Sometimes you'll see him get spun around. Sometimes you'll see him just, you know, he plays extremely high. It's hard to, you know, have good technique when you play high. When he's 6'1", you have to really work on having a, you know, more of a lower bend. I think he struggles with that. I think in off coverage, he backpedals entirely too high. That, you know, if he's in man and he's in off coverage, it's going to take him longer to get in and out of breaks. I think where he works best is, like you were just talking about, a zone. So what his strength is, he's good at playing off. He's kind of caught to where he can see from the quarterback to the slot receiver and the outside guy. And he knows based off of what his responsibilities are and the route concepts, that's what allows Josh Jackson. We see the interceptions. He's able to read concepts. He knows, okay, if this guy goes here, this guy's probably going to go here, and I'm going to jump that, and that quarterback better not throw it. Unfortunately, for quarterbacks in the Big Ten, oftentimes they threw the ball, and he was able to bait some guys into interceptions. So I think Josh Jackson, when I think of him, he's a great zone corner, like what you were talking about. Man, he needs a lot of help, more work than what, Keller Witherspoon, who was, a little raw coming out. A lot of things he has to work, and still has to work on. But I think Josh Jackson is even way further behind than even a Keller Witherspoon in our scheme.
Right, in our scheme. Everything that Eric is saying tonight is based off of in the 49er scheme. When he's saying good fit, bad fit, anything like that he's talking about. In the scheme, I want to, again, I'm trying to educate people before we dig into this, and this is going to be my last question on like how players play. Press man, usually, correct me if I'm wrong, those guys will end up having their backs to the quarterbacks, where in zone, they can keep facing the quarterback. They're looking at them, they might be backpedaling, moving around, but they can keep their eyes on the quarterback, right? But if you're playing man, you guys got to.
The quarterbacks are your key. So a lot of times, I always tell kids the quarterback's not your key. The key is either, the number one or number two receivers, depending on what position you're playing or what side of the field you're on. He's going to take you to the ball, and then you'll have a chance to be able to peek at the quarterback because you're not responsible for just a man, if that makes sense.
Okay, so all right, so then so it's not easy to say, all right, I see the front of his jersey, they're in zone. That's not always necessarily how it works then.
Right. No, and I mean, typically, I would say, yeah, usually if I see the front of somebody's jersey, I'm probably thinking that they're in a man type, a zone type concept. But, you'll see guys, just do, different things here and there. I watched a play with Marcus Peters, and he jumped this play, and I'm like, oh, man, that was a great zone play. Then I watched the play again. I'm like, everybody's in man. I think he was in man, and he just jumped it, So sometimes you'll have somebody like Marcus Peters who's going to gamble more. So it might look like zone to me or to somebody's eyes, but when you go back and you watch the entire play and you look at everybody, hey, he's running with him, he's running with him, he's running with him. Marcus Peters was a man, and he just gambled. So you'll see some of that, but for the most part, if you see the front of somebody's jersey, I'd say 9 out of 10 times they're in zone.
All right, so if you could give a general sentence or two with, if you see a player doing X, Y, and Z, odds are they're a good corner. And I know it's not fair. I know it's really hard to try to categorize everybody in one small box. But if you could say a guy who watches his receiver at all times and he can turn in either direction very easily and not trip up, or like if you could give me one sentence that lets people know, like when they're watching film on these corners, when they know that this is the Niners' biggest need and they want to know who we should be looking at, like let these people know how they can look at it. Like if you can do it in a sentence or two, like a good corner.
I would say, for the 49ers game, I would say fluidity and good eye discipline, because those are two things that you need in man. You need to be able to move very well, and you need to have good eye discipline, especially in man coverage. And that's what's going to help guys when they're trying to, read guys down on the outside and know when to get their head around. So fluidity and good eye discipline.
All right, guys, that's it. You got it right there. Fluidity and good eye discipline right there. So it's not so much about being able to jam at the line. And then another thing is everyone's talking about size. Everyone wants these 6'1", 6'2" corners now. But, I mean, I'm seeing some nice guys out there that don't necessarily meet those requirements, and they're playing pretty good, man. Let me ask you a question really quick, because – and this was not on our agenda or anything like that. Jimmy Ward is coming back. What were your thoughts of Jimmy Ward when he was playing corner? Now, I know he was like in the slot and things like that, but you let me know, what were your impressions of Jimmy Ward when he was at corner?
Well, he played corner, he played slot. He's been all over. I thought he was decent. I didn't see anybody that, it's kind of hard to tell when the team is around him is so bad and we were playing so poorly. So it's kind of hard to see like, hey, who's standing out, who's doing their job. But I didn't see him as a liability. If that makes sense.
All right, yeah, that makes a
Like,
lot
oh,
of sense.
if they throw at Ward, like they're gonna, like how we looked at Dante Johnson last year, you know, or if they threw at Robinson and it's like, oh, I hope he doesn't PI him or hold him. I didn't see Jimmy Ward as a liability. Now I don't know how good he was, but I know he wasn't bad. If that makes sense.
All right, I like what you said. Okay, so and see, it's funny you mentioned Robinson because when you were talking about that dog, that fight, that short term memory, and they're gonna come back and they're still gonna have that confidence and all. Man, that was Robinson to the T, man. Like I really felt like Robinson was super confident every time he stepped on the field, and it just was not working out for him. So
right. Well, he was raw, and you have to put like the technique to it too, and if you are lacking technique or your technique is very inconsistent, then a lot of times you're going to put yourself in bad situations, and that's what was happening with him. He had everything else. He had everything you wanted. Seemed like he had the work ethic. He wants to be that. He's the alpha dog. He was all of that, but he lacked the consistent technique that you need. I think he wasn't a bad cover guy, but I think he could have helped himself by kind of fine tuning his skills a little bit more.
sorry about that. Yeah, I agree with you. And he kept showing all the videos like during the off season of how he was working and everything. And I was like, man, he's training like he really won it. He really won it. I was hyped for him this year. I ain't gonna lie, man. That was probably the biggest letdown for me personally this year. All right, so we're gonna go. We spent enough time talking about what to look for. Now, free agency is coming. Now, we're not going to get to the draft. I know that you said that there was a gentleman in the draft that you wanted to talk about, but we're not going to get to the draft because right now we're going to stick with free agency. That comes first. That comes before the draft. Yes, the combine will happen, but free agency happens before the draft.
Right.
So we're going to talk about that. So there are a ton of cornerbacks on the market. I mean, you talk about Jermaine Johnson. People talk about Emerson because his name is being brought up a lot. You got Prince Amukamara. You got Jonathan Joseph. Darrell Revis, Morris Claiborne, Malcolm Butler, DJ Hayden, Terrence Newman, Kyle Fuller. Like the list goes on and on and on. And I'm just running off of random names here. But I want you to tell me what if the Niners could get the perfect corner that's in free agency right now to go play opposite of Akello. I'm assuming Akello is going to be our number 1 or 2, depending on what the pick is in free agency of the draft. But who would it be and why?
I would probably have to say like the ideal. I would have to say probably Tremaine Johnson. I don't think that he has the ideal long speed, so that can be kind of concerning. But I think just with what he does well. And when I talked about good eyes and I talked about fluidity, and for a 6'2" guy, he's pretty fluid. I would think that he probably overall is the best fit. The issue with him and what I think when I think about free agency and everything that the 49ers are doing right now, he's 28 years old. He'll be 29 in January. He's born, I know him. So he's born January 1st. He'll be 29 years old. Do you want to throw long-term money at a guy that already isn't the fastest of guys, and probably only going to get slower as the years go by? So that might be something that might be a little bit concerning. But I think just overall, if we're just talking about this year and a guy that fits and you block out the money aspect of it and everything, I would say he's probably the best, most ideal fit for the 49ers.
All right. It's a long list, and I'm going to read it to you. But if anybody pops out, just like stop me, okay? If any of these names that I read pop out to you that you think might be worth taking a flyer on, don't necessarily mean big money, but somebody that might be worth bringing in, you wave me down, and we'll stop there, and we'll go from there, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So we got B.W. Webb, Travis Carey, Dimitri Goodson, E.J. Gaines, Kenneth Acker, former 49er.
I like Acker.
You like him?
Well, I mean, not
person.
So much for this game. I liked him with what we did before.
Okay, I got you. All right, Nevin Lawson, Dante Johnson. Okay, all right, now. All right, Aaron Colvin, Rashawn Breeland.
I like Breland a lot.
Yes, I'm so glad you stopped there. Okay, he's 26 years old. This guy, all right, so this morning, a lot of news broke saying that the 49ers were interested in the Raiders free agent corner, David Emerson. Emerson lost his job to Rashawn Breeland. So I want to know what your thoughts are on him because he's currently a free agent.
Yeah. It's fun. One thing about Emerson, man. Before we talk about Breland, Emerson. I remember when he was at college at North Carolina State, and dude had like 13 interceptions in 1 year, like when he was a sophomore. So it's like, man, kind of like what happened, So I think when guys look at Emerson, it's like the talent is probably there, but the production just hasn't been there. So that's the issue with him. But Breland, man, when we talk about dog, and I mean anybody that watched that Washington Redskins secondary, Josh Norman was the guy that everybody hears about, but you look on the other side, man, and
Breeland
was playing just as good. Breland was playing just as good. If I had to guess why they're not keeping him is because they just paid Norman all that money, and sometimes it's kind of hard to pay two guys big money. And I don't think that Breland is going to get that much money, but he's probably going to get more money on the open market than they were willing to pay him. Kind of like our situations that we're in with like Eric Reed or Carlos Hyde, where it's like, man, we like this guy, but we're just not willing to pay him more than what the market will go for this guy. So Breland, he's very intriguing. I think aside from Tremaine Johnson, when I think about just ideal fit, Breland might be right there on that list when you talk about, just size, athleticism, that dog. I mean, what game was it, man? I mean, they were out there just blowing guys up. I was watching the Redskins. It was like a Monday night game, and they were just out there blowing guys up. I'll have to find the clip, but there's a lot to like about Breland for a guy that won't cost you a ton of money. And with the 49ers right now, the 49ers right now, you're looking for a guy, it doesn't have to be just a shutdown guy, but can he just don't be a liability, And if you can have a guy like Ahkello Witherspoon who, he's had some up and down moments, but for the most part, he's not a liability. And if you can add somebody on the other side that's also, a decent starting cornerback, the 49ers, that'll improve our team tremendously.
Not gonna lie to you, man. I didn't expect you to say all that about Bashar. I really, really like this young man. I'm hyped that you said it. You think he's a system fit, which is even more impressive. So I'm excited about that
those guys,
too.
Man. I mean, there's been a lot of games where they'd have him follow Des Bryant around. He's good. Like, he's good. And then, like you said, 26 years old. So you can give him a contract where it's like, hey, we'll give you, 2 years, $20 million, or 2 years. That's kind of what the market's going to go for a decent starting corner. Around $10 million a year is kind of going to start around there. But he might be somebody that you end up wanting to extend. And the fact that he's only 26 years old, that wouldn't be an issue, long term.
All right, so that's a good stop. Put that name on your Rashad Breeland, okay? 26-year-old from Washington, system fit, and he gets the crop of approval there, okay?
I like Breeland.
All right, so Crop Time University, my bad. Stamp of approval. You guys see it on the show. All right, so we're gonna keep going through this list real quick. Stephen Terrell, Kansas City. Benet Benwickery. He's been bouncing around a lot already, right? I thought he was.
No, he was. Yeah, because he went from the Panthers to the Cowboys, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I thought he was with the Panthers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he went to the Cowboys. I think he got traded there at some point. And if he couldn't get on the field with the Cowboys, with that young secondary and how inconsistent they were, you probably don't want him.
All right. I agree with you there. All right. So we have Phillip Gaines, Rashawn Melvin.
So now Melvin is someone else that's very intriguing. 6'2". So he has the size. I remember posting some clips on him of him on my Instagram, and he commented and stuff like that. He was a cool guy, and I think he's decent. I don't know how good, but he's another one of those guys that's 28 years old. So it's kind of just if you want to just bring in a few guys to kind of compete and start opposite of a Killer Witherspoon, a Breland, a Melvin, a draft pick, then I think he's a guy like that where maybe you don't bring him in as the starter, but you kind of let him compete.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, looking at depth right there in competition. So I. All right. Fadden, Daryl Morris, Brandon Boykin.
Daryl Morris is a former 49er too.
Yeah. I remember that name, but I wasn't quite sure because I was like,
undrafted out of Texas State.
Okay. Didn't like him too much for us, though.
Nah, he ended up going. We let him go. He went to the Texans. He went to the Colts. And then I forgot. I don't know if he went anywhere after that.
It's all good because right now it's got him listed as a Giants guy. So Brandon Boykin, Asa Jackson, Bleedy Wilson, Patrick.
Now Patrick Robinson, he had an exceptional year.
30.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're muted.
Patrick Robinson is 30.
Yeah, he had an exceptional year, but that was like the exception. He hasn't been as good. I guess he's more fit for the slot because that's what he played in Philadelphia. And even then, I saw him. He gave up a big play. But again, like I said, everybody notices when you give up the big plays. But he gave up a big play on the in the Super Bowl when with the wheel route, and I sent that video to my kids that I train. I'm like, hey, what do you do wrong? And they're like, the slot has to go with the wheel route. I'm like, yes. So Patrick Robinson, my kids know that. Patrick Robinson for sure should know that. But I think we're fine. I don't know how much of an upgrade he is from over Williams. Maybe slightly better, but for a 30-year-old guy and probably have to pay him money, I don't see the 49ers even sniffing his way.
All right, that's cool. Are you having any trouble hearing me?
No, you're fine now.
Okay. Pierre Desir.
I hear a lot of people say his name, but I don't know much about him. And I want to say he was on the Seahawks first. I don't.
Yeah, he started with the Seahawks, and now he's with Indy.
Yeah, and I thought Melvin was the better corner out of anybody that I saw there. So yeah, I would say no.
All right, we're about halfway through the list already, so let's keep it moving. Teddy Williams, Leonard Johnson, Nikel Roby-Coleman, Sterling Moore.
No.
Okay, how about Byron Maxwell?
Now, Byron Maxwell, I know, 49ers are going to be like, man, he's a Seahawk and all that. But I will say, depending on what the 49ers are trying to do, I've been on the Key to Leave hype train. But Maxwell will be another one of those guys where you kind of bring him in and, he can play if you need him to. He can be a starter. He can be decent until you, develop maybe a guy that you drafted. So that'll kind of keep you away from spending a ton of money on a Tremaine Johnson, or maybe a Breland's price tag is more than I expect, or even a Malcolm Butler. You can sign a guy like Maxwell where you'll get decent production out of him, and you can draft a rookie and develop him under him. And maybe if somebody's hurt or whatever, if somebody gets hurt, then you can have a rookie ready to go and Maxwell or whatever. But he's another guy where I think he's decent. He knows his scheme, and he can play well in this game. So I think that's somebody where depending on the direction they want to go, he wouldn't be a bad fit.
And he's going to get the same love that Pierre Desir is getting because they both came from that Seattle defense first, and people were like, "Oh, that's the defense we're emulating." So naturally, they think that it's a fit. So that's right. He's going to get thrown in there also. But I would be worried about a guy who's bounced around that much you know. But anyway, all right. So Alteron Werner. Now this was a big name in free agency like a year or two ago, and here he is again.
I think he's
Alteron
more of a
Werner.
zone. I think he's more of a off zone type guy.
Okay. Tremaine Brock.
Brock, no.
All right. Leon Hall. No. Sharice Wright. Ross Cockrell. Sharon.
Cockrell isn't. I wouldn't do it, but maybe if you're just looking to bring guys in, maybe he's that type of guy. But
All right. All right. Sherrick McManus. Tremaine Williams. Marcus Shirelles. Bryce McCain. Johnson Badimosi. Kyle Fuller.
Kyle Fuller. See, I have to watch more film on him. I know he's good. I know Kyle Fuller is good. I would like to see how he was the one. He had a couple interceptions. If you guys remember his rookie year, 49ers played the Bears. We jumped out to a big lead on them, and Kaepernick, who really, I know he gets a lot of slack, but Kaepernick really didn't throw a lot of interceptions. But that game he threw like 3 or 4 picks, and we ended up blowing a big lead. I want to say Fuller had about 2 or 3 of them. I don't know if he's more of a off zone type guy. I know he fits what Fangio did very well, but he might be a guy that can play more press. But I just would have to dig more into his film.
Yeah, he's a guy that a lot of people are very surprised that Chicago isn't trying to bring back. I mean, maybe they are, but I mean, at 25 years old and with what he's already displayed in the NFL, he's going to probably be the biggest contract as far as from this position, I think, because he's got the biggest upside. So we're almost done. So we got Marcus Williams, Devon House, Terrence Newman, DJ Hayden, Malcolm Butler. You think he's a fit and a possibility?
So I know he can definitely play man. Now he doesn't have long speed. He's another guy that ran like 4.6 something at the combine. So that's one thing that when you don't have help over top like that, it's a little concerning. I think one thing that he had with the Patriots is they do run a lot of 2-man, which 2-man that means basically you have man. You can kind of take away everything underneath, and if they do throw it deep, a lot of times you have help over top. So I know he excelled in that type of man type scheme. Single high safety scheme is a totally different dog. I'm not sure exactly how well he'd fit in our scheme, but I do know that he can definitely play man, and he's really good. He's aggressive. He's a dog. Here's all those things that we look for. I would have to dig into the film and see how well he played with no safety help.
All right. So it's a name to kind of pay attention to, but Malcolm Butler is a big one being tossed around, and it helps a lot when you've got a couple of Super Bowl rings and things like that. So, D'Angelo Hall, 34, no. Justin Bethel, Morris Claiborne.
Man, kind of resurrected his career in with the Jets. I never thought that Mo Claiborne was that bad with Dallas. I think a lot of times he just struggled to stay on the field. He was just always banged up. For one reason or another, he was just always missing time, missing games. He didn't have the big interception numbers, but the Cowboys are a team that play a lot of man. A lot of times when you play a lot of man, you're not going to get a lot of interceptions. I think that's what made Richard Sherman so good, where he's playing more of a man type scheme, and he's getting 8 interceptions and stuff like that. But Mo Claiborne is definitely somebody that the 49ers could kind of look to be, I think he's a decent starter. I think he's a decent starter. He wouldn't be at the top of my list. I think guys like Breland and maybe Malcolm Butler would be over him, but he'd be right there in the mix.
Yeah, I kind of like the Morris Claiborne thing too. I wasn't sure if he was a system fit, but you saying it gives me all the confidence in the world. So if they brought him in to compete, I'm all for it, man.
Right.
We're more than likely going to bring in more than one DB, one corner. So I think
we only have one outside corner. So
yeah. All right, so we almost done. We got like 4 or 5 more names here. Darrelle Revis, I think we're all over that. Yeah. Same with this next name. That's Jonathan Joseph.
I
Same with
like
the next.
Joseph. Again, that he was one of the guys I liked before. Talib came into play. If you were to tell me like, hey, who should they sign? I'm just all for. I don't really like spending a lot of money in free agency. I think a lot of guys are kind of castaway type guys. So I would think about the most. Okay, what would make the most sense? And to me, signing a guy like Jonathan Joseph, who knows where he's at in his career, and you draft a guy to replace him, that made the most sense to me. So a guy like Jonathan Joseph, he can definitely still play. He has the size, he can still run for the most part. If you watch him versus 49ers this year, he made some pretty good plays. He had some tight coverage. So Jonathan Joseph definitely somebody that is intriguing to me. 34 years old, but he can still play ball. He just went, obviously not a long-term answer or anything like that. But he'll be a good investment for a short-term type deal.
Yeah, I think Joseph will be 34 by the time the season starts. He's currently 33, but I get you, man. That's what was giving me pause was that his age, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of discriminate a little bit, I feel like if you're in free agency, you're gonna get more than what you're actually worth, no matter what,
Not him.
unless you make it to like, 2 weeks later, then they'd be like, all right, come on, So it is what it is. The next name, 34-year-old Brent Grimes. No? Okay. Prince of Mukamara.
Intriguing, but nah.
Okay. I've never liked Prince of Mukamara. So that's just me. But all right. David Amerson, you kind of spoke on earlier.
It would have to be like no guarantees, no anything. I mean, I think he's a guy where if I would have to see, like I saw him get ran by Tyreek Hill. He runs by everybody. So that's the only thing that stands out from Emerson to me. He was actually in his back pedal, which I don't think you want him. You don't want anyone in the back pedal against Tyreek Hill because he's going to run right by you. So that was strike one by the Raiders. So I don't know if it's the Raiders putting him in that just a terrible situation because he wasn't terrible with the Redskins, but he was terrible with the Raiders. So he initially when I saw that, I was like, oh no, don't do it. But you never know. Maybe the 49ers system would be a better scheme fit for him, and he might be somebody where you just bring it in and see like where he lands. If he doesn't work, then he doesn't work. It's a 90-man roster. You're gonna have like 10 cornerbacks on the roster anyways.
Right.
To start the training camp.
The Raiders talk so much trash, man. We got Sean Smith and we got Emerson. Like, oh, it's over. And like here they are, like just on the trash heap now. All right, anyway. All right. And then the last but not least is Tremaine Johnson. And we already know he's like the perfect fit, right?
Right. He's a perfect fit. Like I said, the two things that concern me a little bit are 28 years old and then, giving a guy a huge contract. And then, like I said, just not having the long speed, just a little concerning to me when you're gonna be left on an island. A guy like we have a Keller Witherspoon on the other side. He ran a 4.45 at the combine. That's not hand time. That's laser time. So we know he can run. I'm not big, on 40s and things like that, but it does to a certain extent when playing in certain systems. It's like, okay, we do just need to know, can he run? You know what I'm saying? And Tremaine Johnson, 28 years old, big contract, is like, he might be slowing down a little bit. I don't know, but he might be one of the first guys that I would look to sign if I'm the 49ers.
All right. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. My man Eric Crocker has broken it down for you guys. All the free agent cornerbacks. We went through every single one. He told you which ones stood out to him, which ones might be a fit. Mo Claiborne getting some consideration, but my favorite is by far Bashaud Breeland. I'm hoping that's who the Niners bring in. I hope that more even than Tremaine Johnson. That's how strongly I feel about Breeland. I'm not going to speak for Eric, but my man, flash that Croc Time University tee right there.
Yeah,
it is. There it is, man. So we're going to get up out of here. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We're going to have more videos coming to you guys. We're going to break down all the different positions of need for the 49ers coming up in free agency, followed by going right to the draft, because I know Eric's been studying a lot of film with people on the draft. We're going to get to that too. We promise you. Stay patient, but even more importantly than that, stay faithful. We out.
Out.